I stared at the acceptance email on my phone screen, feeling like I'd been struck by lightning. Keystone University? Holy shit. My mom yelled from the kitchen, "Leo, what are you screaming about? You're gonna make me drop this skillet." I sprinted into the kitchen barefoot and shoved the phone in her face. "Mom, I got into a school in Philly." The spatula clattered into the pan, spattering hot oil all over my face. She threw her arms around me, her voice trembling. "Are you serious? I thought you only applied to schools in Ohio." "It was my last choice application. I just filled it out for the hell of it," I said, scratching the back of my head. Who knew I'd actually get in? Suddenly, Mom let go of me, her expression turning complicated. "What about Cece?" The smile on my face froze. "Cece is my childhood sweetheart. The kind you've known since you were in diapers. She's a year younger than me, a senior in high school this year. We've been together for 2 years, or to be more accurate, she pursued me for 2 years until I just sort of gave in." My phone buzzed. The caller ID on the screen flashed. My little psycho. I swallowed hard and hit accept. "Leo." Cece's voice was sweet and crisp, like a freshly picked strawberry. "I saw the acceptance list. You're going to Philly." Before I could say anything, I heard a loud crashing sound through the phone, like she just flipped her desk. "Cece, are you okay?" "I'm fine." Her voice suddenly became unnervingly calm. I was just so happy I knocked over my water glass. Philadelphia. That's like a 4-hour train ride on the Amtrak. A chill went down my spine. Having known her for 18 years, I knew that this kind of calm was usually the precursor to a Category 5 hurricane. "I can come back on weekends," I said weakly. "Don't bother," she cut me off. "I'll come visit you." That sentence sent a shiver through me. Cece has a baby face that looks completely harmless, but she's a bona fide obsessive. Last year, a girl passed me a love letter. The next day, she transferred schools. After I hung up, my mom looked at me, worried. "Son, maybe you should." "Mom," I shook my head with a pained smile. "You really think I can get away?" Move-in day in Philadelphia felt like a giant steam room. I was dragging my suitcase at the campus gate, my t-shirt already soaked through. "Hey, need a hand?" An older student with glasses walked over. I was about to answer when my phone rang. A FaceTime call. I sighed, waved the guy off, and stepped aside to answer. Cece's face appeared on the screen. She was wearing light makeup today, her hair in a high ponytail, dressed in the same white sundress from our first date. "Made it to campus?" she asked with a beaming smile. "Just got here." I panned the camera around. "See, this is the main gate." "Turn it back. I want to see you." Her voice suddenly turned cold. I quickly flipped the camera back to selfie mode. Cece stared into my eyes and said, word by word, "Leo, remember our promise." I nodded like a bobblehead. I remember. FaceTime 3 times a day, reply to texts instantly, no talking to other girls, post pictures of us on my Instagram. And, be back in my dorm by 10 p.m. The most important one. I scratched my head. Keep my phone's location sharing on permanently. Only then did she smile satisfied. "Good boy. Go get registered. I'm inspecting your dorm room tonight." After hanging up, I let out a long breath. When I turned around, the student with the glasses was still standing there, staring at me with a look of pure shock. "Girlfriend?" he asked. I gave him a heavy nod. "Childhood sweetheart." "Dude." He clapped me on the shoulder. "Good luck." The dorm room was a quad. When I got there, 2 of my roommates had already arrived. One was named Cody, a guy from Texas built like a linebacker, all of 6'3". The other was Sam, a local from Philly with thick glasses, currently assembling what looked like a very expensive gaming rig. "Leo Martinez from Ohio," I said, introducing myself as I started to make my bed. Just as I was busy, the door was kicked open. A guy with bleach blonde hair and head-to-toe designer clothes walked in dragging an LV suitcase, followed by a well-dressed middle-aged couple. "This dump doesn't even have an elevator," the guy complained. He saw us and broke into a brilliant smile. "Yo, roommates. The name's Blake. From L." His parents dropped off his stuff and left in a hurry, saying they had a flight to catch. Blake plopped down on my bed and pulled out a pack of cigarettes. "Want one?" I shook my head. "I quit." "Girlfriend won't let you?" He raised an eyebrow. I gave a bitter smile. "How do you know?" "I can just tell from that whipped look on your face." Blake roared with laughter. "My ex was like that. That's why she's my ex." That night, the 4 of us went to a cheap pizza place off campus. After a few beers, everyone started to open up. So, Leo, what's this girlfriend of yours look like? Blake leaned in. Got a picture. I hesitated for a second, then pulled out my phone and showed them a photo of Cece. In it, she was wearing her high school uniform, making a peace sign at the camera with a perfectly innocent smile. Whoa, she's adorable. Cody's eyes went wide. You lucky bastard. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. A FaceTime request from my little psycho. I fumbled to answer, and Cece's face filled the screen. Where are you? She asked, her voice sickly sweet. Grabbing pizza off campus with my roommates. I turned the camera towards them. This is Cody, Sam, and Blake. My 3 roommates gave goofy waves. Cece smiled and nodded, then said, pan the phone around. I want to see the place. I did as she asked. As the camera passed over Blake, Cece suddenly said, wait, go back. My heart skipped a beat. I aimed the camera back at Blake. He had a cigarette hanging from his lips and gave the camera a wink. Who is he? Cece's voice turned to ice. My roommate, Blake. I just introduced him. Stay away from him. She hung up. The atmosphere at the table instantly froze. Blake looked completely baffled. What did I do? I buried my face in my hands. She's a little sensitive. Back at the dorm, I had just gotten out of the shower when another FaceTime call came in. This time, Cece was in her pajamas, her hair wet, looking like she had just showered too. I want to see your room, she said. I held up my phone and did a sweep of the dorm. Cody and Sam were already in their bunks. Blake was deep into a video game. Where's your bed? Cece asked. I walked over to my bunk. Right here. Aim the camera at the bed. I need to inspect it. I complied. She carefully examined the sheets, the pillow, and even made me show her under the bed. Okay, she finally said, satisfied. Now put the phone on a stand. I want to watch you sleep. What? Is there a problem? She narrowed her eyes. No, no problem. I obediently did as I was told, propping my phone up on my nightstand. On the screen, Cece laid down too, and we stared at each other through our phones. Good night, Leo, she whispered. Sweet dreams. And remember, I'm the only one allowed in them. The next morning, I was woken up by Blake screaming, Leo, your girlfriend is terrifying. I groggily opened my eyes and saw Blake pointing at my phone. The screen was still on. Cece was already up and brushing her hair in front of her camera. She watched you all night. Blake asked, horrified. I nodded helplessly. Cece smiled sweetly into the camera. Good morning, Blake. You played video games until 2:17 a.m., swore 7 times, and watched porn 3 times. The color drained from Blake's face. The first day of classes, a package from Cece arrived. I opened it to find a smartwatch. Put on, she commanded over the phone. Heart rate, blood pressure, GPS location. I can see it all. I sighed and strapped it on. I had just walked out of the mailroom when I bumped into a few girls from my class. They said hi enthusiastically. I nodded back and then quickly walked away. My phone rang instantly. Leo, Cece's voice was as cold as ice. Why did your heart rate just spike? My scalp prickled. I was jogging. Liar, she whispered. I heard a girl's voice. It was just some classmates saying hi. The watch shows you near the mailroom, she continued. Stay right where you are. Don't move. 5 minutes later, my phone buzzed with a screenshot. It was from a campus security camera pointed directly at where I was standing. Next time you lie to me, Cece said in a gentle voice, I'm buying a ticket to Philadelphia. That night during our dorm bull session, the topic inevitably turned to my terrorist girlfriend. Brother, you're not dating a girl. You're dating a surveillance drone, Cody remarked. Sam pushed up his glasses. From a technical standpoint, she has in fact achieved remote surveillance. Blake leaned over from his bunk. Leo, be honest. Are you scared of her? I stared at the ceiling, thinking for a moment. I am, and I'm not. What's that supposed to mean? She's like. I searched for the right metaphor, like a really, really clingy cat. Sometimes her claws dig in, and it hurts, but then you look into those big, watery eyes, and you just can't bring yourself to push her away. It's over, it's over. This dude's a lost cause, Blake wailed. My phone suddenly lit up. A text from Cece. Leo, I miss you. I replied, I miss you too. How much? So much that. My fingers paused, and then I smiled as I typed, so much that you'll be the only one in my dreams tonight. A blushing emoji appeared from her end. I knew that tonight, the surveillance level would be downgraded. Just a little. Part 2. The 37th time the smartwatch vibrated, I finally ripped it off and threw it on my bed. Dude, Blake said, crossing his legs with an unlit cigarette dangling from his lips. Does your girlfriend work for NASA? This surveillance tech is more advanced than a spy satellite. I stared at the flashing green light on the watch. That was Cece checking my heart rate. 10 minutes ago, I ran for a few seconds to make it to class on time, and my heart rate hit 120. Her FaceTime call came through instantly. Leo, Cece said from the screen, wearing her school uniform against the backdrop of her high school classroom. Why is your heart racing? I just ran a little. With a girl? Her eyes narrowed into slits. I was about to be late for physics. I held up my textbook for her to see. Seriously, I was just running. She stared at me for 10 seconds, then broke into a sweet smile. Then you have to make it up to me. Tonight on our video call, with the pajamas I bought you. My skin crawled. Last week she'd sent me a set of pajamas covered in photos of her face. Wearing them felt like being suffocated by a 360-degree CC vision. The watch vibrated again. I resigned myself to putting it back on and saw her text. Watch was offline for 9 minutes and 27 seconds. Explain. Just as I was about to reply, the dorm room door was kicked open. Cody walked in holding 4 containers of takeout pizza. Dinner's here, boys. Hold on, I said, holding up my phone. I have to take a picture for Cece first. My 3 roommates rolled their eyes in unison. This had become a ritual in our dorm. Before every meal, I had to report the menu, the dining location, and my dinner companions to Cece. After sending the photo, she replied instantly. Whose is the 3rd pizza? Why is there an extra set of utensils? I zoomed in on the picture. Blake's girlfriend had stopped by to drop off some fruit and had left an extra fork on the table. It's for my roommate's girlfriend. She's leaving right now. I typed, my hands shaking. Make her leave. Now. I looked up at the girl who was currently feeding Blake a strawberry and forced myself to speak. Hey, could you maybe? The girl nodded knowingly, put the fruit down, and left. Blake glared at me. Leo, what the foo? A FaceTime call came in. Cece's face appeared, her hair in pigtails today, looking as innocent as an angel. Hi, everyone. She waved at my roommates. Has Leo been a good boy? Cody and Sam nodded awkwardly. Blake just scoffed and turned back to his video game. Leo, Cece's voice suddenly turned cold. I want to inspect your closet. I walked over to my closet, phone in hand. Last week, she discovered I had an old t-shirt given to me by a female friend from high school. She took an Amtrak to Philly that same night and burned it. Bottom drawer, left side, she directed. I crouched down and pulled open the drawer. Inside was a neat stack of boxer briefs. Cece nodded in satisfaction. Good. You're wearing the ones I sent you. After hanging up, Blake finally exploded. Leo, can you grow a spine? Is she your girlfriend or your parole officer? I kept my head down, poking at my now-cold pizza, and said nothing. They didn't understand. There was a reason for Cece's obsession. In 10th grade, her parents divorced. Her dad ran off with his mistress, leaving her and her mom to fend for themselves. From that moment on, she's been terrified of losing people. My phone buzzed again. It was a link from Cece to an Amazon order. Bought you new underwear. Arrives tomorrow. Throw out all the old ones. I replied, but I just got these 2 months ago. Throw them out. Or I can come to Philly right now and watch you throw them out. I immediately typed back, okay, babe. At 10 p.m., the dorm lights went out. I hid under my covers, FaceTiming with Cece. She was wearing the teddy bear pajamas I'd bought her, lying on her stomach and kicking her feet. Leo, did any girls talk to you today? No. Liar, she pouted. At 3:17 p.m., you spoke to a girl from the Literary Society for 2 minutes outside the library. A chill went down my spine. How could she possibly know that? The library has security cameras, she said with a cheerful smile. I hacked into them. I almost fell out of my bunk. This was beyond obsessive. This was borderline cybercrime. Just kidding, she giggled. Sam told me. I whipped my head toward Sam's bunk. He was wearing headphones, completely absorbed in a game, totally oblivious to the death stare I was giving him. Leo, Cece's voice suddenly softened. I miss you so much. On the screen, her eyes were red-rimmed, making her look like a little kitten caught in the rain. My heart melted instantly. I miss you too, I said softly. Want me to come home this weekend to see you? She shook her head. No, the train ticket is too expensive. I can handle it. In that moment, All the surveillance, all the unreasonable demands suddenly seemed insignificant. She was just terrified of losing me. After the call, I received an email from Cece, a detailed document titled Leo Martinez Behavioral Protocol 2.0. New rules included sending a selfie every morning, afternoon, and evening, keeping my daily step count on my phone under 8,000 to prevent me from going on walks with girls, and a weekly inspection of my browser history. I smiled bitterly as I clicked on the photo attached to the email. It was a selfie of Cece in her room, wearing my old high school sweatshirt. In a corner of the photo, the trash can was overflowing with Amazon shipping boxes from all the packages she'd sent me. My phone vibrated again. A new text from Cece. Leo, I've decided. I'm coming to Philly to see you next month. I stared at the message, a mix of excitement and terror churning in my gut. Excited to see her, but terrified she would find the pack of cigarettes hidden in my desk drawer. The ones Blake had forced on me. The ones I hadn't dared to smoke. What's up? Blake's head appeared from the top bunk. Cece's coming. My voice was shaky. The dorm room fell silent. Part 3, the 72nd time the smartwatch vibrated, I had finally mastered the art of flinging it under my bed in my sleep without waking up. Leo. Blake kicked the door open, waving a piece of paper. Your little psycho is on her way. She already booked the train ticket. I shot up in bed so fast I slammed my head on the bunk above me. Ignoring the pain, I snatched the screenshot from him. It was a picture Cece had posted on her Instagram story, an Amtrak booking confirmation. The caption, surprise inspection. Arrival at Philly's 30th Street Station, tomorrow at 3 p.m. Why so suddenly? My voice trembled. Blake grinned, reveling in my misery. Probably because of that Instagram post you made yesterday. I remember the group photo I'd casually snapped when my roommates and I were out for Korean barbecue. In the picture, Blake's arm was slung over my shoulder and a blurry female waitress was visible in the background. My phone suddenly blared an alarm. The custom ringtone Cece set for herself. I answered the FaceTime call. She had her hair in pigtails today, wearing the strawberry print pajamas I bought her, looking completely harmless. Leo, guess where I am? She flipped the camera around to show the boba tea shop across the street from our old high school. You. I thought you weren't coming until tomorrow. Silly, I lied. She giggled, her voice so sweet it felt poisonous. I'm already in Philly, at the west gate of your campus. My knees went weak, and I almost collapsed. The camera panned to the stone sign at the entrance, the words Keystone University gleaming in the sun. 10 minutes, she said, holding up one finger. If I don't see you, I'm coming to your dorm to find you. After she hung up, Blake whistled. Want us to help you hide the evidence. I scrambled to pull on my pants. There are cigarettes under the bed, an old t-shirt from my ex in the closet, and we got it. Cody was already tearing through my belongings. Sam, grab the underwear off the balcony. As I bolted out the door, I heard Blake yell after me, come back alive, brother. I made it to the west gate in 6 minutes flat. Cece was standing under a large oak tree, wearing a white sundress and a pink backpack, looking like a lost high school student. The moment she saw me, she ran over and jumped into my arms. Leo, I missed you so much, she nuzzled against my chest, then suddenly pulled back and sniffed. You smell like smoke. A chill ran down my spine. It's my roommates. Is it? She narrowed her eyes, reached into my pants pocket, and pulled out my phone. Unlock it. The second my thumb unlocked the phone, my heart rate shot to 120. The smartwatch immediately let out a piercing alarm. Cece smirked, opened my iMessage, and scrolled to my chat with Blake. Blake, yo, want to hit the gaming cafe all night? I invited that waitress from last time. Me? Fuck off. Cece would kill me if she found out. Blake, what you gonna do, hack your phone? My vision went black. That conversation was from last week. We did go to the gaming cafe, but the part about the waitress was a total lie from Blake. Explain. Cece's voice was as light as a feather, but it made every hair on my body stand on end. Blake was just joking around. Take me to him, she cut me off. Now, on the way back to the dorm, Cece held my hand, her nails digging deep into my palm. As we passed a small wooded area, she suddenly pulled me in behind the trees and pushed me against an oak. Leo, she tilted her head up to look at me, sunlight filtering through the leaves and dappling her face. Do you remember our promise? I nodded. In 10th grade, she had scrawled, "I'll kill you if you cheat on me," in red ink inside my textbook. I thought it was a joke at the time. Good. She leaned in close, her breath warm against my neck. "Now kiss me." The kiss tasted like blood. She bit my lip hard. When we pulled apart, she licked the drop of blood away and smiled. "Now everyone will know you're taken." The dorm room door was ajar. When I pushed it open, Blake was sitting on my bed playing a game. Cody and Sam were nowhere to be seen. Well, if it isn't. Blake looked up, and the smile froze on his face. The look in Cece's eyes made him swallow the rest of his sentence. "You must be Blake," Cece said sweetly. "I hear you introduce girls to Leo." Blake coughed awkwardly. "Just kidding around." "Really?" Cece walked right up to him, grabbed the can of Coke off his desk, and poured it over his head. "Stay away from my boyfriend." The soda dripped through Blake's blonde hair. He slowly stood up, his 6'1" frame towering over her. I thought he was going to explode, but instead, he started to laugh. "Interesting," he said, wiping his face. "Leo, your girlfriend is even more intense than you said." The air in the room turned to ice. Cece turned to look at me. "What did you say about me?" I wanted to strangle Blake. The bastard was intentionally provoking her. "He said you were." Blake began slowly, drawing it out, a little controlling, like a walking surveillance camera. Cece's expression went completely blank. She let go of my hand, pulled a small box from her bag, and tossed it to me. "Put it on." Inside was a black collar, the kind you put on a pet. A small light blinked on the inner surface, clearly a GPS tracker. "Either you put it on now," Cece said softly, "or I transfer to a high school here in Philly tomorrow." Blake whistled. "Damn, that's even more high-tech than what my ex used." Gritting my teeth, I fastened the collar around my neck. The cool metal pressed against my throat. Cece smiled, satisfied, and stood on her toes to kiss my chin. "Good boy." She turned to Blake. "Now, I'm going to inspect Leo's room." The next half hour was a nightmare. Cece tore through my closet, my desk, and under my bed. She even took apart my PC tower to inspect it. She found 3 cigarette butts, Blake's, a poster of a female celebrity, Sam's, and half a box of condoms, Cody's, unopened. "Very good," she said finally, clapping her hands together. "Now take me to see where you have your classes." Before we left, Blake grabbed my arm and whispered, "I've got a surprise for you tonight." The lecture hall, the dining hall of the library. Cece toured every corner of my life like a queen inspecting her kingdom. On the 3rd floor of the library, she stopped and pointed to a seat in the corner. "Is that where you usually sit?" I nodded. It was a good spot by the window. She walked over, knelt down, and felt under the desk. She pulled something off and held it up triumphantly. A tiny black dot. A miniature camera. "I knew girls were trying to secretly film you," she said, crushing the device in her fingers. "This is the 3rd one." My blood ran cold. Had she installed these, or was someone really filming me? That evening, I took Cece to a cheap motel near campus. The woman at the front desk gave me a look of utter contempt, as if I were some kind of predator preying on high school girls. "You shower first," Cece said, sitting on the bed and swinging her legs. "I need to check your phone." The sound of the water couldn't drown out my pounding heart. When I came out, Cece was staring at my phone with a cold smile. "What's this Philly Friends group chat?" she asked, waving the phone. "And this message? Anyone want to set me up with a cute girl?" I snatched the phone and looked. Blake had sent it from my phone, using my profile picture. That son of a bitch. It was Blake. It was a prank. "I know." Cece cut me off. I checked the IP address. It was sent from his phone. She suddenly pushed me onto the bed and straddled my hips. "But you didn't stop him, which means a part of you wanted to." The collar vibrated, beeping loudly. Cece glanced at her phone, and her expression changed. "Why is your heart rate so high?" I only then realized my heart was hammering against my ribs. Her warmth, her weight, the way she was looking down at me. "Because," I said, my voice hoarse, "you're too close." She tilted her head, then smiled. "You like this?" Before I could answer, her phone rang. The caller ID said Mom. Cece's demeanor instantly became fragile. She answered, her voice trembling. "Mom, what's wrong?" A shrill, angry voice came through the phone. Even without speakerphone, I could hear every word. "Where the hell did you run off to? Your homeroom teacher said you skipped school." I'm at a friend's house." "Bullshit. Your father said his credit card was just used in Philadelphia. Did you go see that little punk again? Cece's tears fell onto my chest, hot against my skin. She hung up and buried her face in my shoulder, sobbing quietly. I hesitated for a moment, then gently patted her back. My mom wants to get back together with my dad, she said suddenly, because they both think I'm crazy. I didn't know what to say. In 10th grade, she had cut her wrists because her parents were fighting over who wouldn't have to take custody of her. Leo, she looked up at me, her eyes red. You won't leave me, right? I kissed her forehead. Never. She smiled through her tears, then suddenly pulled down the collar of my shirt and bit down hard on my collarbone. I sucked in a sharp breath of pain, but didn't dare push her away. A mark, she whispered, licking the blood. So you'll always be mine. In the middle of the night, I was woken by my phone vibrating. Cece was curled up against me, sleeping like a kitten. I carefully slid my phone out. It was a text from Blake. Dude, help. I'm at the police station. I gently moved Cece's arm, left her a note saying I was going to get breakfast, and slipped out. The police station wasn't far. Blake was squatting by the entrance, smoking, his blonde hair a mess. What happened? I asked. He grinned, just testing the range of your girlfriend's surveillance. He held up his phone. On the screen was a map with a moving red dot, the tracker on my collar. Look, here she comes, Blake pointed down the street. Cece was sprinting toward us in her pajamas, barefoot, holding a motel slipper in her hand. Surprised? Blake whispered. I bet you $100 she hits me first. Cece ran right up to us, but instead of hitting Blake, she threw herself into my arms, trembling. I thought you left me. I held her tight and shot Blake a look over her shoulder. He shrugged and walked away. On the way back to the motel, Cece clung to my hand, her nails digging into my flesh. When we passed a convenience store, she suddenly said, I want a yogurt drink. At the refrigerated section, she picked up 2 strawberry yogurt drinks, and then, when I wasn't looking, slipped something into my pocket. It wasn't until we were back in a room that I found it, a box of condoms. I don't want you using anyone else's, she said, her face bright red. You can only use the ones I buy you. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This was the twisted logic of an obsessive. She could track my every move, but God forbid I use a condom she hadn't personally approved. When we checked out, the woman at the front desk looked even more disgusted with me. Cece stood on her toes and whispered in my ear, next time, I'm installing cameras in your dorm room. Looking at her innocent smile, I suddenly realized it wasn't a threat. It was a promise. On the bus back to campus, Cece fell asleep on my shoulder. My phone vibrated. A text from Blake. Dude, I think I'm starting to like your girlfriend. I stared at the message as the collar around my neck suddenly felt a millimeter tighter. Part 4. The moment the collar tightened, I could have sworn I heard my vertebrae protest. Blake's text was a grenade, and it had just blown the fragile peace between me and Cece to smithereens. Like my girlfriend? I typed, my fingers shaking. Are you fucking insane? Cece tilted her head, sunlight dappling her face through the bus window. Leo, who texted you? I instinctively covered the screen. The collar immediately let out a piercing alarm. Heart rate, 150. Cece narrowed her eyes and lunged for the phone. We wrestled like 2 kids over a toy until she lost her footing and I grabbed her by the waist to steady her. Give it to me, she whispered, her fingers tracing the bite mark on my collarbone. Or I'll go find him right now. We ended up at a dive bar behind campus. It was Blake's choice. He said he wanted to compete fairly. The idiot had no idea he was playing with a live bomb. The bar was dimly lit. Blake sat in a corner booth, his blonde hair glowing under the neon signs. On the table were 3 beers, like 3 cups of poison awaiting judgment. Well, cuter in person than on FaceTime. Blake whistled at Cece, completely ignoring the murderous glare I was sending him. Cece sat primly beside me, her hands folded in her lap like a well-behaved schoolgirl. But I knew what was hidden in the pocket of her sundress. Before coming here, she bought a utility knife at the convenience store. I hear you have a thing for my boyfriend? Cece asked, her voice as sweet as honeyed poison. Blake grinned, showing his teeth. To be precise, I have a thing for you. You're way more exciting than Leo described. I almost threw my beer in his face. That asshole was deliberately trying to set her off. But Cece's reaction was unexpected. She laughed softly, pulled a small notebook from her purse, and slid it across the table to Blake. This is Leo's daily heart rate fluctuation, his GPS history, his sleep quality analysis, and, she paused, a micro-expression analysis for every time your name is mentioned. Blake was stunned. So was I. The notebook was filled with dense data and hand-drawn charts. Last Wednesday, at 4 p.m., Leo's heart rate spiked, Cece said, pointing to a line on the graph. That was when you touched his hair. Blake looked like he'd swallowed a bug. You're spying on me. I only spy on Leo, Cece tilted her head. But you keep showing up in the surveillance footage. It's annoying. My blood ran cold. Her surveillance network was far more extensive than I'd ever imagined. Blake suddenly burst out laughing, slamming the table so hard that people at other booths looked over. Holy shit, Leo, your girlfriend's a genius. He leaned closer to Cece, so close he could probably smell the strawberry scent of her shampoo. You know, I like collecting data, too. He pulled out his phone and opened an app. This is Leo's GPS track for the week. See? It overlaps with mine by 87%. I shot to my feet, knocking over my beer. The liquid spread across the table like a pool of blood. What the hell is wrong with you two? Am I just some kind of lab rat to you? Cece grabbed my hand, her grip surprisingly strong. Sit down, Leo. Something in her eyes made me obey. Blake whistled. Wow, a regular lion tamer. The next half hour was a surreal nightmare. Blake and Cece actually hit it off, talking animatedly about everything from surveillance software to psychology, from behavioral analysis to how to better control me. You should install a camera in his dorm room, Blake suggested. The Wi-Fi signal is great. Cece nodded seriously. Already ordered one from Amazon. It arrives tomorrow. I sat between them like I was invisible, downing one beer after another. It wasn't until Cece suddenly said, "Let's play a game," that I tuned back in. She pulled the utility knife from her pocket and twirled it between her fingers. Whoever can cut a longer line on their own arm wins Leo for a day. The loud bar music faded away. All I could hear was the blood rushing in my ears. But Blake just laughed. Deal. But a day is too short. How about we bet a week? Done, Cece said, already started to roll up her sleeve. I snatched the knife from her. The blade sliced across my palm, and drops of blood spattered on the table like tiny red flowers. Everybody just fucking stop. Cece and Blake both turned to look at me, and their expressions were eerily similar. The thrill of discovering a new toy. Leo. Cece reached out to touch my hand, but I pulled away. What am I to you? My voice shook. A trophy, a pet? Blake shrugged. A friend, obviously. He pointed at Cece. As for her, she clearly sees you as her personal property. Cece didn't deny it. She just pulled a handkerchief from her purse and began to bandage my hand. Her fingers were cold, her touch as gentle as if she were handling something priceless. We're going home, she said softly, as if her insane proposal had just been a joke. As we were leaving, Blake called out from behind us. Leo, don't forget about the club fair tomorrow. You made a promise. Cece immediately spun around. What promise? My scalp tingled. Last week, I drunkenly agreed to join Blake's new band. It's nothing, just, he's our lead singer, Blake added with a grin. Practice 3 times a week, gigs on the weekend. Oh, and our bassist is this super hot girl. She loves hitting on lead singers. The collar vibrated, letting out a shrill alarm. Cece's face went cold. You wouldn't dare. On the way back to the motel, Cece was silent. The second we were in the room, she shoved me onto the bed and straddled me, looking down at me. Leo, she whispered, I'm going to carve my name into your skin. I was drunk, but my survival instinct was still kicking. Don't. Just kidding, she suddenly laughed, then leaned down and licked the cut on my palm. But you are not joining that band. I breathed a sigh of relief, thinking the crisis was over. Then she pulled out her phone and showed me a picture. It was Blake's dorm bed. Tucked under his pillow was a corner of pink lace underwear. Is that his girlfriend's? I asked cautiously. Cece shook her head and zoomed in. There was a small tag on the underwear with a name on it, Chloe, the girl from the literary society who'd met me on Instagram last week. He stole it, Cece said. I found a folder on his laptop when I hacked it. It's full of pictures of things he's stolen from girls. My stomach churned. Blake had a creepy fetish like that. So, Cece's breath was hot against my ear. Stay away from him. Or, I'll post these pictures all over the campus social media pages. I had a nightmare that night. I dreamed I was being torn in two, one half locked in a cage by Cece, the other half being dragged into an abyss by Blake. When I woke up, Cece was dipping a Q-tip in the blood on my palm and drawing little hearts on a tissue. "Morning, Leo," she smiled sweetly. "Today, I'm going to pay Sam a visit." I was instantly awake. "Why are you going to see him?" "To learn how to hack into the university surveillance system." Of course, she tilted her head. "Sam is much more honest than you are. He tells me everything I ask." My skin crawled. Sam was our dorm's tech genius, and the only one who knew the full extent of Cece's methods. When they started scheming together. When I walked Cece to the station, she hugged me at the security checkpoint, squeezing so hard my ribs ached. "Leo," her voice was muffled against my chest. "What if I transferred to a school in Philly?" I froze. That threat was sharper than any utility knife. "Your mom would never agree." "She got remarried." Cece looked up, her eyes red. "Her new husband thinks I should be in a dorm." I didn't know what to say, so I just stroked her hair. She suddenly bit my finger, leaving a perfect circle of teeth marks. "A placeholder," she said, stepping back with a smile. "Next time I see you, I'll leave a deeper one." On my way back to the dorm, my phone rang. It was Blake. "Dude, your girlfriend is something else. She sent me 99 death threats last night, complete with a nude photo of me. I don't even remember when it was taken." I hung up and stood staring at the stone sign at the campus gate. The sun made the words Keystone University glare as if they were mocking my entire situation. Back in the room, Sam was typing furiously across 3 monitors. When he saw me, he pushed up his glasses. "Your girlfriend asked me to hack Blake's social media accounts. In exchange, she's going to teach me how to bypass the campus network's firewall." "And you agreed?" "Of course," he grinned. "A fair trade of skills." Cody's head popped down from the top bunk. "Leo, you're in deep shit. The RA was just here looking for you. Said someone reported Blake for stealing girls' underwear." My vision swam. Cece moved way faster than I thought. That evening, Blake burst into the room and slammed his fist into my closet door. "Your girlfriend reported me." I shook my head. "I didn't tell her to—" "Don't play dumb." He grabbed me by the collar. "She even found out about the time I stole my deskmate's eraser in middle school." The collar around my neck let out a sharp beep. Blake paused, then sneered. "What's this, a dog collar?" He reached for it, and I shoved him back. "Don't touch it." A dangerous look entered Blake's eyes. "Leo, do you really think I want to steal your girlfriend?" He leaned in close, his voice low. "I'm trying to save you." Before I could process that, he stormed out of the room. My phone vibrated. A text from Cece. "Sam gave me Blake's class schedule. Tomorrow, he's going to have an accidental fall down the stairs." I stared at the message, the scab on my palm throbbing with a dull ache. The Philadelphia sky had no stars tonight, only a thick blanket of clouds that felt heavy enough to crush the entire city. Part 5, the 73rd time the caller's alarm went off, I was in the middle of slicing open a frog in anatomy lab. The entire class turned to stare at me. The professor's expression was more sour than a specimen preserved in formaldehyde. "Mr. Martinez," the professor said, pushing his glasses up his nose, "either turn off your electronopet or take it outside." I fumbled for my phone. On the screen, Cece's texts were flooding in. "Leo, why did your heart rate spike? Is there a girl next to you?" The professor was on the lecture stage, pointing to a diagram of a frog's nervous system. I typed back quickly, dissecting a frog. "It's gross." "Liar," she replied instantly. "The security camera footage shows Chloe from the Literary Society sitting to your left." My scalp went numb. Ever since Blake had accidentally spilled his boba on Chloe's skirt last week, forcing me to hand her a napkin, her name had become forbidden territory with Cece. The bell rang. I had just bolted out of the classroom when I ran straight into a wall of muscle. It was Blake, his blonde hair practically glowing in the hallway light. He waved his phone in my face. "Your little psycho is transferring." I snatched the phone. It was a screenshot of Cece's Instagram story. The picture was an application form for a high school here in Philly. The caption was just 2 words, "See you." What the fuck? My voice shook. How could her mom possibly agree to this? Blake grinned, enjoying my pain. "Rumor has it her mom is in the honeymoon phase and can't wait to get rid of the baggage." He leaned in closer. "By the way, Chloe asked me to give you this." He shoved a folded note into my hand. I opened it instinctively. It was an invitation to the Literary Society's poetry reading next week. The collar around my neck suddenly constricted, its alarm shrieking through the hallway. In the distance, around a corner, I saw a flash of a white sundress. Shit, she's here. I took off after her, Blake's laughter echoing behind me. Dude, you've got it worse than the frog. Cece was faster than a spooked rabbit. By the time I caught up to her behind the library, she was holding the utility knife, its blade glinting in the sun. Leo, she tilted her head, her voice as sweet as a poisoned apple. Are you going to the poetry reading? I swallowed hard. It was Blake. I know. She cut me off, lightly dragging the tip of the blade across her own wrist, leaving a thin red line. But you didn't say no. The instant a bead of blood appeared, my heart skipped a beat. She shoved the knife into my hand. Either you make a cut, or I transfer here and watch you every single day. The handle was cold in my hand. I looked at her pale wrist, at the 3 faint scars already there, a permanent record of every time I've been caught talking to another girl in high school. Cece, hurry up, she blinked, or I'm heading to the admissions office right now. The moment the tip of the blade touched her skin, I changed direction, yanking it back and dragging it across my own forearm. Blood welled up, dripping onto the library steps like a string of red beads. Cece froze. It was the first time I had ever defied her twisted punishment game. Is that enough? I asked, handing the knife back to her. If not, I can do it again. Her eyes immediately filled with tears. She lunged forward, grabbing my arm, her tongue licking at the wound. Idiot! Who told you to cut so deep? The blood stained her lips like cheap, smeared lipstick. I leaned down and kissed her, tasting iron. Don't transfer. Why not? She looked up at me. Afraid I'll get in the way of you hitting on other girls. I'm afraid you'll leave your mom, I said softly. She just got remarried. She needs you. Cece's expression went blank. I knew I'd hit a nerve. Since her mom's wedding, Cece had become the odd one out in her new family. She doesn't need me, Cece sneered, but her voice was trembling. She just needs her new husband. Her phone rang. The screen read Mom. Cece's hand shook so badly she could barely hold the phone. When she answered, her voice was shrill. What do you want? A muffled stream of yelling came from the other end. Cece's face grew paler and paler until she finally hurled the phone against the wall. The sound of shattering glass made a few nearby students look over. She told me. Cece's voice was a whisper. To get the hell out and move to Feliso, I don't ruin her honeymoon. I pulled her into a hug. She was shaking like a drenched bird. The collar vibrated, a high heart rate alert, but this time I knew it was hers. On the way to the campus health center, I got a text from Blake. Your girlfriend is at the dean's office? She was halfway through the transfer paperwork when they stopped her. She's making a scene. My vision went dark. When had she even gone to the dean's office? As the nurse disinfected my cut, Cece stared at me. Leo, why don't you want me to transfer? Because. I chose my words carefully. Long distance makes us appreciate seeing each other more. Liar, she saw right through me. You're afraid of me watching you. I didn't deny it. She suddenly smiled and leaned in close to my ear. What if I promised not to watch you? Really? No, she giggled. But I can pretend not to watch you. That was a Cece-style compromise. On the way back to the dorm, she was playing with my fingers when she suddenly said, I found Sam. My heart jumped. What for? To learn hacking, of course, she said with an innocent smile. He said he can teach me how to crack the course registration system. That way, I can take all the same classes as you. I pictured Sam's nerdy face. I couldn't figure out why he was so willing to help her. Then Cece added, I promise to help him get a date with the president of the Literary Society. Shit. The president of the Literary Society was Chloe. A moving truck was parked outside my dorm. As I walked up the stairs, I heard Blake's booming voice. Yeah, put that mattress over there, right next to Leo's bed. I pushed the door open and froze. Half the room was filled with Cece's luggage. She was directing 2 movers who were setting up a mini fridge. Surprise! She bounced over and kissed me. I rented a single in the building across the street, but I can hang out here with you during the day. Blake winked at me. Dude, your girlfriend rented Cody's spot. For $3,000 a month. Cody was standing in the corner with his bags, looking completely bewildered. Just last night, he'd sworn he would never move out. Cece stood on her toes and whispered in my ear, I told him if he didn't move, I'd post the videos he took of the girls' dorm across the way online. I looked over at Sam. He was helping Cece set up a miniature projector. No, it was a surveillance camera disguised as a projector. Leo, Cece said, patting my cheek. From now on, we could be together every single day. She was smiling so sweetly, but a chill crept up my spine. Blake threw an arm around my shoulder. Hey, band practice tonight. Don't forget. The caller's alarm went off again. Cece narrowed her eyes. What band? It's just my band. Blake cut me off. Leo's the lead singer, and Chloe is our bassist. The air turned to ice. Cece's face went blank, the telltale sign of an impending explosion. I quickly tried to explain. I didn't agree to it. But you didn't say no, Cece said softly. She pulled a small bottle from her purse. Do you know what this is? It was filled with a clear liquid. Blake whistled. Bottled water. Sulfuric acid. Cece smiled sweetly. It's diluted. It'll only leave a scar. It won't blind you. She looked at Blake. Get near my boyfriend again, and I'll throw this in Chloe's face. The smile vanished from Blake's face. I knew he believed her. There was a conviction in Cece's eyes that was impossible to doubt. That night, Cece insisted on squeezing into my narrow dorm bed with me. She clung to me like a koala, her fingers tracing the bite marks on my chest. Leo, will you ever stop loving me? Never. Liar, she bit my collarbone. But it's okay. If you stop loving me, I'll just lock you in a basement and make you sing only for me, every day. It wasn't a joke. She'd done the same thing to her pet hamster in 10th grade, convinced it liked her mother more than her. In the middle of the night, my phone vibrated, waking me up. It was a text from Blake, dude. I think I'm actually falling for your girlfriend. I stared at the message, and the collar tightened. I turned over and found Cece, wide awake, watching me in the dark. Who was that? She whispered. Blake. I decided to tell the truth. He said he likes you. To my surprise, Cece didn't fly into a rage. She was quiet for a moment, thoughtful. Then she said, he's more interesting than you are. Those words were more corrosive than acid. I pulled her closer. Don't listen to him. He's a psycho. So, am I? She giggled. Then her expression turned serious. Leo, if I got together with Blake, how many times would you cut yourself? My heart stopped for a second. This wasn't a hypothetical question. It was a threat, a test of my limits. 100 times, I said, looking straight into her eyes. And then I'd lock you in a basement and make you sing only for me, every day. In the moonlight filtering through the window, Cece's eyes sparkled. She kissed me, her breath hot. Now, that's the Leo, the first love. The next morning, Blake was waiting for us outside the dorm. He was holding 2 breakfast sandwiches, his blonde hair a mess in the morning breeze. Morning, you 2 psychos, he grinned, handing Cece a coffee. With 3 sugars. Cece took the coffee, her expression unreadable. But I knew what she was thinking. Blake remembered she took 3 sugars in her coffee. I often forgot. On the way to class, Blake walked beside Cece, telling her one stupid joke after another. To my gut-wrenching dismay, she actually laughed a few times. Between classes, I hid in a bathroom stall and got a text from Cece. Time for a test. I'm having lunch with Blake alone today. No following me. I stared at the message, the scab on my forearm itching. The collar's alarm went off. Heart rate, 150. At lunchtime, I went to the 2nd floor of the dining hall like a man possessed. Hiding behind a pillar, I saw Cece and Blake sitting by a window. Blake said something, and Cece burst out laughing. A genuine, unrestrained laugh that I rarely heard when she was with me. My heart sank. As I turned to leave, I bumped into someone. It was Sam. Don't worry, he said, pushing up his glasses. Cece asked me to hack Blake's laptop to find more dirt on him. Why are you telling me this? Because she knew I would, Sam said, his voice full of meaning. She's playing a game, and you're both her pieces. On the way back to my dorm, my phone rang. It was Cece. Test over. You're slightly better than Blake. He was only willing to cut himself 3 times. Attached was a photo. It showed Blake's forearm with 3 bloody lines, perfectly parallel, like hash marks on a prison wall. I stood outside my dorm building, the sun blindingly bright. Up on the 2nd floor, Cece was looking out her window, waving at me with an innocent smile. The collar beeped again, but it wasn't an alarm this time. It was a special notification Cece had set up, She had updated the Leo Martinez behavioral protocol. A new rule was added. Must say I only love Cece 3 times a day. I looked up at her and it hit me. In this obsessive game of hers, I would always be the one who lost.